Hello, dear family, welcome. Let's start together with acknowledging the presence of God and Guru. And let's start with a prayer.
A warm welcome to you. Maybe just keep a silence for a few moments as we ask for the wisdom, the love and light to all, and for at all times to be in our lives, and for this day to be as it should be. So we're going with the will of life at all times. Thank you.
Dear family, I hope you could hear through the computer screens there our beloved Gurudeva's voice with our opening prayer, which is lovely. So this is the last of the 4 satsangas that we called a satsanga with a difference. So what I'm going to do, because I know some of you have not been able to come to all of the 4, is just very briefly summarize what our purpose was in bringing these satsangas and what we've covered. And the satsangas with a difference were really brought about by the need we felt to share how to get closer to God and Guru. Now, of course, the most important way is all the ways as Kriya bands, with all the spiritual tools you have, is the most important way to get close to God and Guru. And we certainly haven't seen ourselves as being anything other than a little bridge of light to help you with some of our experiences. And if they've been helpful, that's wonderful. And if they not really, then I would say let them go and don't worry about it. So what we've covered in 4 weeks, the first week we listened to Guruji's talk on finding and keeping the joy. And Gurudeva talked very much in that about using an affirmation. Being full of wonderment and joy was the next talk we did. Being like little children, innocent, transparent, no guile. Seeing wonderment in a snowflake as well as moving a mountain with Gurudeva. And then last week we listened to Guruji's talk on surrendering to God's will. And in some ways, that's a lot more simple than we might think, because Gurudeva said God's will is for us to be of peace, of love, of joy. And if we do that, and we're able to do that more and more, then we're going to harmonize ourselves with the divine will in every aspect, really, of our lives. So one of the ways we looked at doing that was to have an internal conversation with God. You know, there is no reason why we can't, whatever we're doing. Of course, there are times when we're speaking to other people that we're not going to necessarily be splitting our energy and trying to have a conversation with God and talking to somebody at the same time. But it's like God's invited there as part of that relationship, whether it's your partner, friends, work colleagues, somebody you meet in the street, you know, just family you haven't met yet, really. I know in days gone by they called that practice in the presence of God. And we have our spiritual practice, don't we? We have our Guru Yoga and all our spiritual tools that we're blessed to have. But these were just some suggestions about how we might make manifest God a bit more in our daily lives. So this week we listened to Gurudeva's short talk called Asking. And Gurudeva says, what am I? What are you? Simply the most perfectly made being, that we were all brothers or sisters, woman becomes man, that we are all really celebrating our mutual source and our oneness. And the other thing that I felt this week with that particular talk was, I think it invites us to have a spirit of inquiry. And that's always a very fresh and healthy thing to have, isn't it? An open mind, a spirit of inquiry to ask, as Guruji says, what am I, what are you? And also, how open-minded am I to progress? How open-minded am I to what somebody else might need? How somebody else perceives something? So I feel that's a really deep subject. And what we'll do in a moment, if you're happy to, is to keep in mind those themes, and I'll remind you of them just when we close our eyes, and just for a few minutes have a reflection on how they might link together and how they have manifested, or you can feel them starting to manifest in life. So that if there is anything that you feel intuitively is of help for you, then perhaps you could bring that when we finish the recording at the end of the session. If you feel intuitively how those things are linked together and that could be of benefit to somebody, then that would be lovely to share that. So again, a reiteration, as we've said all along, and certainly at the very beginning, if some of you weren't here at the very beginning, this was a satsanga with a difference. We weren't certainly replacing our quiet, reflective satsangas. It was just a question of seeing, is this of benefit? Is this of help? This is what's helped us. If it has been of benefit, then it's completed whatever the infinite wanted to be completed there. So we don't actually feel, although we put aside a bit of a PS with Thursday satsangas from June, we actually don't feel, Joanne and I, that there is a need for us to get together on those Thursdays now. We feel that from the feedback that you've given, from the way we've both been inwardly guided, that it's come to a full circle, it's completed itself. But obviously our Sunday satsangas, which are much more quiet and reflective, will start again from, I think it's the 5th, the first Sunday in June, and they'll carry on for June and July. And the theme for those is going to be from Gurudeva's talk, Always Living in Summer. So you might want to, if you like, make a note of that. And if anything comes to you when you're reading Guruji's words or listening to audios, or if you have any personal poems or words that you might want to share that links in with that theme, Always Living in Summer, I think that would be a lovely thing to bring to those satsangas. And something Joanne reminded me, that if people have set aside mentally or in their diaries that Thursday, which was a bit of a PS on our part in case we needed it, then you could always continue to use some of that time for you to practice some of the things that we've said, or to just choose to use that time to take one of Guruji's phrases or a little piece of one of her talks that really resonate with you, and perhaps focus on that so that you're developing your relationship in the way that is right for you. So if you wouldn't mind just sticking your hand up if that doesn't make sense to you. If it's all sits well with you, then that's fine. So if you're happy to, just to remind you again, those 4 talks were, hello Jennifer, I'm sorry, I think you missed the beginning of that. Hello, nice to see you. So we're going to just have a quiet reflection for a few minutes on the theme of the 4 talk titles that we've been listening to. So don't worry if you weren't able to listen to them all, but just to remind you, the first one was Finding and Keeping the Joy, and Gurudeva's affirmation in that I shall not accept anything less than joy. And the second one was Being of Wonderment and Joy. and seeing, as I say, the wonderment in everything in life. And linking then with last week's talk, as Gurudeva said, surrendering to God's will and what that would mean. And she gave us an example of being more peaceful, more of light, more of love, because if we're doing that, then we are linking in with God's will. And then finally, this last week, our final week, was listening to the short talk, asking, which really opens our hearts and minds to that deep inquiry of who am I, and reflecting on our oneness. So if you wouldn't mind keeping those thoughts in mind, and if you're happy to, we'll just do it for a few minutes. If you'd like to just close your eyes, when you're ready, just take a couple of breaths and just see what resonates for you with those themes in mind. And we'll just do this for a few minutes. And whenever you feel ready, if you'd like to just take another breath or two, open your eyes, take your time. And perhaps if you wouldn't mind just keeping in mind any insights that have either come to you that you have been putting into practice in your life, or anything else that you feel would be helpful and that you feel intuitively to share when we finished the recording part of our session this evening. Remembering that God manifests to each of us in many different ways. I know I've said it before, but there is no one way to God. No one has the monopoly on God or Guru. There's infinite, everlasting, ever new joy. What we have to remember is, as we feel that more and more, as Mataji reminded us quite a bit before she passed, make sure we balance, make sure we cover over more, because those energies are very powerful and they're very beautiful. And when we're ready for them, they completely fill us. But we live in a mortal body in a very mortal world. So I'm sure you're all coming up against situations where you feel perhaps a bit more open, a bit more vulnerable, a bit more sensitive, a bit more overwhelmed. I certainly know I have. So just a reminder of those things. And another thought as well, and we've said this, Joanne and I, that if anything comes up for you that you feel doesn't clear, there's some sort of block or some sort of resistance or something that you just don't feel you can get beyond, do reach out. If you have a counsellor, reach out to them to get a one-to-one session. A lot of things such as your spiritual tools, your breaths, your pranayama, your myli, your reflective practice of guru yoga, of course, is all covered on a pure meditation refresher, but don't wait for the next refresher if there's any problem with that. There's always what I call a meditation tutorial, and that could be as short or as long as is needed for somebody. If they've got a question, that could be as simple as 15 minutes, or it could be a 2-hour tutorial, you know, because the refreshers, obviously, we try to get it when there's a few people, because everybody benefits when there's small, of course. But if there's only, the next one is scheduled probably November, but please don't wait till then if you know there's something you need. And of course, it doesn't have to be me, although most people here tonight, other than I think Jennifer, are in this part of the world. But Alison and obviously Joanne are in Michigan. So go to your nearest meditation teacher or whomever you feel. You know, that was the whole point of Guru Deva saying we're a worldwide family. You can go wherever you feel to. And it's important you exercise that choice. And something that came to me before I asked Joanne if there's any more from Joanne was, as I was feeling this was the last and it was feeling a completion, I thought, well, look, I think most of you are light workers. I don't know for sure because obviously I'm not in touch with the list of light workers as much as I could be, I suppose. But if you are, and there is anything you feel you would like to see from Siva Light as an organisation, as an associate, as a light worker, then do write to them. With the associates in mind, light workers, it would be to Canada, Kathy and Andrew. If you have any thoughts or insights that you think, oh, this would be really lovely to put on their platform, on their Siva Light website, then do write to Paul Hanser, who is obviously very au fait with putting these things on the website. But really do develop your relationship with them if that organisation is going to serve you, serve us, as much as you would wish it to. You know, it's like a mutual thing, isn't it? Don't wait for them to think of what they might feel to do. You can also make a request or put a suggestion forward. So that was something that came to mind, which I shared with Joanne just before we spoke. So Joanne, I've sort of summarised some things, but is there anything I've forgotten, anything you want to add?
Just for myself, what's helpful in the spirit of inquiry is to keep in mind that I am lovably human and that it's information. So it's not that you'll come back with things that are so terrible about who you are, right? Just we're lovably human. So have that open space of inquiry with God and Guru and see what information comes your way to change and take it forward with joy.
Thank you. And something else that I know we've said, we're all one spiritual family, and we are. But when we connect inwardly with God and Guru, when we do our best to foster that relationship, when we develop a personal relationship with God and Guru, then we're a family in our own right. We're a family with God and Guru. And if all of us, even the ones here tonight, and the ones that perhaps weren't able to be with us, if we all did that and we link up as one spiritual family, then that's a lovely devotional bouquet, isn't it, of blossoms for God, as we call it. So just a few things as reminders, not to take the place of what you already know, but really just reminders. If it's been helpful, and some of the things we've talked about, Joanne and I, have been really things that we've discovered for ourselves or as teachers, and that's really what spurred this on. The intention was a pure one to help you forwards in your relationship with God and Guru. So if it's done that, then it's served its purpose. So what we'll do, rather than finish with our prayer now, is we'll stop the recording, maybe bring forward anything you feel would be intuitively helpful for somebody, and then we'll finish with our prayer, acknowledgements, and listen to Guruji's song chant at the very end, because it's the last one of the 4.
So let's finish with our acknowledgements and a prayer together, and then a song together. And for the time that's left that you set aside, again, as Mariananda mentioned, we'd be encouraging you to just sit in the quiet, meditate if you've got the time to, but away from your screens to spend some time with God and Guru and see what they have in store for you next. Infinite beloved, beloved Mate Yogananda, Mahasaya Dharmaji. We are so happy and grateful to have had this time together with you. And we pray that your will is done in all things, that we're helped to relax and be who we are, peaceful, loving, joyful beings, in flow with you, noticing when our lovable humanness comes up and looking for the information in joyous curiosity, so that we may take that and go forward, changing all that's unlike who we are into our truth. And we lift into your light now all of our personal requests for your help with ourselves, with our projects, with our family, with the world in general. May all beings come to know you more and more, as we are so blessed to do. May your peace and love and joy reign in all hearts and minds as soon as possible. In the meantime, bless and keep us, each and every one, in your light and loving care. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Amen.
Let our eye be single and full of light. Our 2 eyes may see, but our divine eye sees all. The eye of light. Mine eye is my delight. Let it stay with me. Mine eye is my delight. Let it be my guide, oh, let it be my guide. Mine eye is my salvation. Let it be my guide. Mine eye is my salvation. Let it be my guide, oh, Let it be my guide. Mine eye is my delight. Let it stay with me. Mine eye is my delight. Let it be my guide. Oh, let it be my guide. Mine eye is my salvation. Let it be my guide. Mine eye is my salvation. Let it be my guide. Oh, let it be my guide. Let it be my guide. Let it be my guide. Oh, let it be my guide. Let it be my guide. Let it be my guide. Oh, let it be my guide.